Hey everyone, welcome to another round of Empowerhouse Extras. My name is Kiersten. I'm the head of film, TV, and new media at Empowerhouse. I'm joined today by the writer and director of America's Amazing Mom, Debbie Sue. Debbie, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Kirsten. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everybody. As Kirsten mentioned, I am Debbie Sue. I'm a writer, director, and producer. I do a lot of short films. I also do music videos and the like. And I'm so proud to have America's Amazing Mom on this platform. And this story is basically about a young Filipino immigrant who is celebrating her birthday away from home for the first time.
I feel like the best place to start is just how you and I met and how it came to be that your film is going to be featured on Empower House. Your film had screened at the Fil-Am Creative Film Festival of 2024. And I remember in that, it's just, sitting in the crowd for that, how incredibly special it was from frame one. We know that feeling all too well of what should be a very joyous gathering filled with so much life, fun, and people. And as the story progresses, there is it's so impressive, the emotional gut punch to be dramatic that you feel at the very end. And it was very captivating in how you've done that in, I think, 3 minutes. That's the runtime of your film. And to do that is just, again, just a magnificent feat. And having watched that, I was just so moved, as was the crowd. And I think we spoke briefly afterwards, and then I DM'd you, and I just wanted to gush over how amazing your project is. So, I hope you feel proud of it. And I'd love to hear more just about the genesis, any personal attachments, just how this project came to be.
When I wrote it, I didn't really think about how it would be received by other people, and it's been so amazing that I've been able to bond with essentially strangers about this feeling, and it spans across nationalities, like people from anyone who just didn't grow up or has deep roots in other countries. They resonate with this feeling of just being alone during a special occasion, as you mentioned. So I have a notepad full of story ideas, and every time I think of a scene or I see something that inspires me, I write down whatever I see in this little notepad. And this film was actually, I decided to make it for a class project. So it was my directing class, and we had to do something that was under 5 minutes, right? And so scrolling through my notepad, and I came across this entry that I had thought of when I still lived in San Francisco. I still lived in the Bay Area. And I was shopping with my friend, and I saw for the first time like a party-sized bag of chips. And now that I live here, it's party size, like whatever, right? But when I saw it, I thought that's a huge bag of chips. It's so big that I could feed my whole family, my family of five, and my aunts and uncles and everyone in between, right? And I thought of all the times that every time my family would have a movie night, we would get the as big of a bag as we possibly could, and we would share it. And we in the Philippines, around the time I turned 13, 14, I want to say, they came out with this bigger bag of chips. It was called the Pika chips. And it was a bunch of our favorite chips all put together. It was Tostitos and like Nova and all the things, the all stuffed together in one big bag. And we thought it was the most amazing thing in the world. Every movie night, instead of getting five small bags of chips, we now had two big bags of chips. It was great. And those bags of chips, they do not compare to any of the bags of chips in America. We were a very sharing family. We didn't have a lot of money, so we split everything into not an equal five because that was impossible. But we did as much between the three siblings, and my parents got a little share. The moment I saw these bags of chips, I immediately thought of movie night, and I immediately thought I should get it for movie night with my family. But I didn't have my family around, and that was kind of sad. So I wrote in my little notepad, what if there was just a quick little scene of this girl who's celebrating her birthday, and there's so much food, but she has no one to spend it with. I had just moved to LA, so whatever family I had created back in San Francisco, back in Oakland, I didn't have with me. and I was kind of back where I started. The time that I made it, I had about one friend who I really, who I really clicked with. But it was funny because that's where I made my forever friends, is making a film about not having anyone.
Were there any films, were there any directors that really informed this style? And I know you were under a particular exercise where you had to do something that was under 5 minutes. Were there any short films, or were there, I mean, even a mentor? I want to know more about how this voice, this directing voice came to be.
Hallmark movies, a Dove commercial, and Jollibee commercials. So
Jollibee commercials always get
yeah.
you crying and it gets you in your feelings, so I get it.
America's Amazing Mom for me is a snapshot of a feeling. Another thing about my brain, I guess, that influences how I work is when I see something sad, it just kind of sits there in my brain and I forget everything else in the film. So my mom would say, "Do you want to watch Bambi?" And I'm like, "No, it's so sad. Like his mom dies and then there's fire and whatever." And she's like, "Okay, do you want to watch Dumbo?" I'm like, "No, that's even worse because the mom's caged and they're not together." And she's like, "Dude, like, do you know what else happens in these movies?" I'm like, "No." Even Pinocchio, all I remember is everyone turning into donkeys. Like, I guess for me, it's like capturing that moment of being in a deep, intense emotion.
Yeah, I mean, you just named three of like the saddest films I could think of right now too. So I'd love to hear more about the making of this film.
I'm a right-brained creative. So I love logistics. Like that's part of the art for me, is like getting into a more technical side and not being super emotional. And so I think during the writing of it is where my emotions came out a bit more. Because when I was writing it, and I do this all the time, I do this when I write letters to my family or like Christmas letters and things. I'm like, if I can make them cry, I think that's good, especially my mom. That one scene where we pull out and we reveal whatever we reveal is kind of what I was building up to. So, how do you earn that moment? You have to establish that she is very close to her family, that even though in different time zones, they still call her like on her birthday. And you have to establish that she's used to a big spread. She's used to people coming around, to being close with her uncles, her titos and titas, and all of that. And that way you really earn the end.
And a big part of earning that is through performance. I'd love to hear about the experience with working with your actor.
And she resonated with a bunch of things like Red Ribbon and things to latch on to. I think a big part of what I want to do in the film world and in this space is to really connect Filipinos from back home and the Filipinos who grew up here, who haven't really connected that much with people from home. And I think that was a great place to start.
As I was watching your film, and you spoke earlier about like the family size of all of these snacks and the excess of like, American snacks. And an interpretation can be pulled there about how, what American can give you. It's all these things and it's so much and it could be a little overwhelming, but like at the core of it all, it's like, do you have anyone to share it with? So, did you show your family this film? Had they seen it and what had they responded with?
Of course, my mom, she's like, she loves Disney films, all those sad films. And so at the end of it, she was just like, but she's alone. And then she looked so sad. And then I felt bad. And I'm like, good. That's what I want. I wanted to feel bad that my mom was sad.
My God, isn't that the whole thing with us as like directors, filmmakers? It's like we want to like have people feel a certain way, and sometimes it's like, oh shit, they're crying. But like, why am I relishing in this? Because it's like, you worked hard to earn that emotion, and that's the whole like that's the whole game, that's the whole trick that we play, right? And again, I have to keep commending you on how you're able to do that with such a short amount of time, and to talk a little more about your DP and anyone else who worked on the project.
His name is Tristan Ibarra Martin. He's Mexican. And how do I describe it? His need for perfection matches mine in ways that I didn't know would exist. So I learned everything that I could possibly learn about crew side just from him asking me questions. He made a plan, he made like these little overheads. First time I ever saw that. And I realized how important it was to know these things. So the next time we did a film together, I had more answers to his questions or I knew what to look for. And Tristan is the one DP I've worked with who says, I'm gonna need 45 minutes. And I'm like, okay. And then he always gets it done in 30. So he always like under promises and over delivers.
You never want to be on a set where it just feels like too many things are out of your control. And often with films, you can't control everything, and nor should you. Kind of just roll with the punches. But it sounds like your experience so far has been really great. I'd love to hear more about those, if any, with America's Amazing Mom, if there were any challenges. Like, were there any logistical concerns that you had to navigate?
One of them, it was a lesson that I learned from that day was wardrobe. So my actress came and I never told her exactly what to wear. So she came in a Taylor Swift eras, or no, like a Taylor Swift concert thing, right? It was very much branded, very much Taylor Swift. And I thought, okay, I don't think I can have that in the shot because it's a brand, it's a name. So she flipped it around, but then it didn't look right, you know. So actually, this jacket that I'm wearing is the jacket that she's wearing in the film. It's funny because it's all about food, but for whatever reason it's that classic rookie mistake that if you have food in your props, that's the food that the people are going to eat. And that was so wrong. That was so wrong. Like I am so sorry for my crew. They did have other food, but the bulk of what I was going to feed them was in the shot.
From this film, what were some of the biggest things that you are going to bring to all your later projects?
I got my favorite DP from this film. So that's a huge win for me. It was very emotional to have finished this film. And me submitting it to Creative Film Festival last year was, I mean, it was my first film festival ever. So this film has been very instrumental in my career as a filmmaker.
I'm getting from this conversation is that you're a very, like you said, loyal and sentimental person too, because a large part of America's Amazing Mom, and I'm sure it's apparent in your other work too, is just the value of like, honoring where you come from and where you're at now and how that manifests into a life that one's trying to pursue. And what comes with that territory is often things, again, that are out of your control, but you kind of have to roll with the punches. You have to embrace sometimes in isolation, but also hope that that isolation isn't forever. You always end up finding your people one way or another. And yeah, so I'd love to know how your film has done in the festival run and where we can find you now. Are you working on anything new? And also plug your socials. I want to make sure our viewers can find you and see what you're up to.
Well, the festival run has been very fulfilling. I really only screened it like in person where I had to go in person at Fil-Am Creative Film Festival. I just never realized how much I missed the Filipino community until I went there. It was like one big party. Everyone was so nice. And I think the last one that I went to and the Las Vegas one was also very fun because that community is very tight. While I want to do more in the Filipino space and while I want to pay more attention to my roots and my culture, I also encourage everyone to do films that have nothing to do with the Filipino culture, to work with other cultures and other experiences because life is so vast and beautiful and all these experiences that we have, they are highlighted because we are Filipino, but we can also branch out. And that's really what filmmaking is to me. People ask me how being Filipino influences and affects my filmmaking, and I always tell them it's the other way around. Me trying to write films and trying to understand the world makes me appreciate how much of the Filipino culture has shaped my way of seeing the world.
And I think to add on to that as well, like for, in my case, as well as a writer director, like I absolutely relish in the opportunity to dive into our culture and confront things through a Filipino lens, through our experiences. And there's a beauty in that, and there's also a lot to be learned. And part of the journey that I see for myself, and I know many people as well, is there is a world where we've seen this already in other films that it's a film where the character just happens to be Filipino. Like it has nothing to do with like their roots, their culture, and obviously some parts of that can come through like an actor's decision on like, oh, my character had this upbringing, so there's some thing that still makes them Filipino, but the story around it is not about them being Filipino. And I think to cap off our interview, I would just love to give you another chance it's to speak on how can we find you, what's your Instagram, and share what you got working on.
Yeah. So what I'm working on next is I am writing another short script that's kind of like Lemonade Stand at the End of the Universe type script. And I've written it already. I'm editing it. I'm editing the script right now and hoping to produce that soon. I'm also working with David Zucker on a master crash course in spoof comedy, and the community's I'm so sorry. I'm also working with David Zucker on the Master Crash comedy course in spoof comedy, and the community is free. So if you did want to sign up for that, you can. And then on top of that, there's the project that I've been noodling about in my brain, which is really talking to more Filipinos and talking about their experiences and kind of delving into uncomfortable topics and seeing where we can make that connection or at least have a little bit of understanding about each other. Because I think there's a big divide, like even in the Philippines, just between the upper class and like say the lesser successful folks in the country. Like the divide is huge. And I was a scholar at a very rich school, so I saw it firsthand. And now I live in, the go-to country for most Filipinos. And so like seeing that jump from being at the bottom of the barrel to being what some people consider to be the top, and just bridging that gap. So that's something that I'm going to be working on for the next year. And for my socials, you can follow me on Instagram at DebbieSueFilm. And you can also look at my website, debbiesue.com. So it's DEBISU.com. And I love to chat with people. I love to talk about our own experiences, and I love to learn new things as well. So if anyone wants to chat, you can just send me a message.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Debbie, for taking the time to chat with me and dive into your beautiful film, America's Amazing Mom. Thank you again. And yeah, thank you everybody for watching this and continue to stay tuned for what Debbie's working on next, as well as what we got here at Empowerhouse. Thank you guys.
Thank you. You can now find my film, America's Amazing Mom, on the Empowerhouse platform. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for watching.